Football fans, whether that's college or pro.
Yeah, absolutely. And our friend Jim Rutledge at ESPN Madison is here to talk about what's next for the Badgers and the Packers. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wolf. It was a little bit of a punch in the stomach here this weekend. We want to start with the Packers since that's the freshest game. Maybe people waking up to hear that they lost last night. Why can't they pull it out on the road this year? I mean, we're now 0-6.
You know, the saying goes, good teams win road football games, and I just don't think the Packers are a good football team right now. There's injuries. That's a major part of it. Also, obviously, roster assembly, because they're not very deep, so those injuries are hurting the team even more. Rodgers isn't Aaron Rodgers right now. He missed Devontae Adams for an easy touchdown at the end of that game that could have brought that game a lot closer for Green Bay. And then I think it comes down to when you look at Mike McCarthy, the coaching, the play calling, he can't seem to manage down and distance, can't seem to manage timeouts, when to punt, when not to punt. So all those things are piling up for the Packers.
And so I think that's the next question, is ESPN this morning was calling for coaching changes next year for the Pack. You think that's coming?
I heard Golick and Wingo this morning saying that, not saying that they need to do it, they just expect it, because sometimes you have to make a change, otherwise you become the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, it'll be better than the Bengals because they have Aaron Rodgers instead of Andy Dalton, but just to not make a change to keep things the same, you end up with Marvin Lewis and you end up with the same results over and over again. The Packers have to do something to be more dynamic.
Yeah, one more thing before we switch gears to the Badgers. I mean, what needs to happen now to even think about the playoffs this season?
A lot of luck. I mean, they have to win every game that's left on their schedule, but they don't have a tiebreaker against Washington. They don't have a tiebreaker against Seattle. Both those teams have pretty easy schedules left. The Packers have to win every game, including going to Chicago and winning that game. Chicago looks pretty good right now.
Yeah.
All right, and over to the Badgers, too. Rough matchup on Saturday, and we're talking about going forward. Danica was looking up some of the bowl game chances and some weird names.
Ones that Badger fans are used to, at least,
You got to pick the location. I think that's where you're looking right now. Maybe Pinstripe Bowl or something where you can go out to New York, or I'm not sure all of them out there. I think Badger fans at this point just don't go to Florida, maybe Texas, California, somewhere that's different. So if you did want to travel and see this team, you can make it all about the destination and not the football team.
Yeah. So what were some of the things on Saturday that really did not go well for the Badgers?
right.
Everything.
Here's the list. Do we have all show?
They remind me a little bit of the basketball team last year, where they had they're a little bit thin, a little bit young, and then they had injuries at bad positions, and hopefully the Badger football team can turn things around like we think Badger basketball has. And so next year, I think there's still plenty of reason for optimism. There's a lot of highly regarded football players coming in. They'll get healthy. I mean, remember, this season started thin on the defensive line. They lost 2 defensive line starters to begin the season. So there's a lot of excuses. Now, the Badgers aren't going to use that, and the Minnesota game there's no excuse for what happened there. Minnesota's not better than Wisconsin. You played that game at home and you didn't show up, so that's bad. But otherwise, there's still reason for hope.
Yeah.
I've been trying to keep my mouth shut this morning because I'm from Minnesota. So.
I mean, talking about coaching changes, though, I know there was, just between friends, there was some discussion, too, about Coach Chris getting at least some flack from Barry Alvarez for all of this.
Yeah, I'm sure Barry's not happy.
Yeah.
Paul has established himself. Remember, Brett Bielema won 7-6, I think, in 2008, and that team had very high expectations. Well, to me, that was probably the most disappointing Badger team I've seen. They had a lot of defense, a lot of really defensive talented players. They didn't have a quarterback. That's kind of the problem this year. They don't have a quarterback. You have a better quarterback, everything looks better. It's really the BYU loss and this Minnesota loss were the 2 bad losses this year.
All right, Jim. Well, as always, we appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Always good to see you. All right, there are a lot of things happening in Madison right now to work toward the goal of 100% renewable energy within the next decade or so. We will have an update on those efforts